Now, time for Entre Nous. And on the show today, we're focusing on Zohran Mamdani, the 34-year-old tipped to become the next mayor of New York. And for the story, we're going to bring in now France 24's Delano D'Souza. Hello, Delano.
Good to see you.
Who exactly is Zohran Mamdani?
Well, Zohran Mamdani is an assemblyman from New York. He was born in Uganda and moved to the United States when he was just 7 years old. This automatically rules him out for the country's top job. Mamdani became a U.S. citizen in 2018. That was just 7 years ago. He's of Indian origin. His father is a professor at Columbia University, and his mother, Mira Nair, is a very famous filmmaker who's behind movies like Monsoon Wedding, The Namesake, and Salaam Bombay, which was nominated for an Oscar. Mamdani hasn't needed to change who he is to be palatable to voters. For instance, he's not anglicized his names like other American politicians of Indian origin. Think of Republican candidates like Nikki Haley or even Bobby Jindal. Mamdani has been photographed eating biryani with his hands, and this sort of thing hasn't alienated him from New Yorkers, given that this is one of the most diverse cities in the world. He's married to an American of Syrian descent who he met on the dating app Hinge. The pair got married in City Hall and had a wedding in Uganda over the summer. Rama Duwaji is an artist, and she's managed to stay out of the spotlight and hasn't been seen much on the campaign trail either.
So the big question is, what does he actually stand for?
Well, Zohran Mamdani, interestingly, has run his entire campaign on the issue of affordability. His message of New Yorkers being priced out of the city seems to have resonated with New York's residents and some voters who cast a ballot in last year's presidential election for Donald Trump. He's proposing to freeze rents for 2 million rent-stabilized apartments, make buses free, and have universal childcare. Now, he plans on funding all of this by increasing corporate taxes from the current 7% to 11.5%. As well as increasing income taxes by 2% for those making over $1 million per year. Now, this is where things get tricky because the mayor doesn't have the power to raise taxes. This is up to the state's governor, and Kathy Hochul has been reluctant to say if she'd go ahead and do this, but she's already endorsed Mamdani in the race. So that's the iffy part.
Certainly the whole of the country is watching this race with a great deal of interest. So what has his campaign been like?
Well, Mamdani started out as a long shot candidate and was polling at just 1% a couple of months ago. It was a culmination of factors which resulted in him becoming the frontrunner. First, the city's current Democratic mayor, Eric Adams, who's been charged with bribery, decided to run in the primary, then as an independent, before he eventually dropped out. Also, Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, who resigned following sexual harassment allegations, ran as an independent. So this all paved the way for Mamdani to rise. Zohran Mamdani's team has also run a very slick social media campaign, and they've kept the candidate focused on the issues. There have been no silly memes, no going viral for no apparent reason. Whether it's organizing a treasure hunt for the city's residents or walking the entire length of Manhattan to speak to New Yorkers, Mamdani remains engaged and focused. And he also uses social media to reach out to immigrant communities in New York who often feel overlooked. Here's a snippet of Mamdani speaking Arabic, Hindi, and Spanish.
أنا اسمي زهران ممداني وعم رشح حالي ليكون العمدة الجديد في مدينة نيويورك. डोनर्स के पैसों से चल रहा है. अगर वो जीता तो डीसी के साथ-साथ NYC भी उनका होगा. Por favor, busque su lugar de votación más cercano. Pero nunca dejar.
Back wide again.
Only one new word in here. The only new word is here is bonga. Every other word you've said a bunch of times.
All the words are new. Every time the words are new.
What challenges has he faced? And most importantly, what challenges are going to lie ahead?
Yeah, because it's not going to be an easy path, is it, Annette? Mamdani is a Muslim candidate, and during the course of the war in Gaza, he called out Israeli atrocities in the enclave, which in a city like New York was a very, very controversial move to make, given New York has the largest number of Jews outside of Israel. Mamdani has been brandished an anti-Semite by his opponents. Andrew Cuomo even suggested Zohran Mamdani would cheer on another 9/11. Conservative media personality Megyn Kelly went a step further and said Mamdani would bring Sharia law to New York. But in the face of all these attacks, Zohran Mamdani has reached out to the city's Jewish community. He's received endorsements from multiple progressive Jewish organizations, and one of his closest aides, Brad Lander, is a self-described liberal Zionist. One poll shows that his support among Jewish voters under the age of 44 stands at nearly 67 or 70%. Mamdani has pledged to increase funding for programs to fight anti-Semitism in the city if he's elected. Now, if he winds up winning, Zohran Mamdani will only move into Gracie Mansion on the 1st of January, but that is when the real challenge begins for the self-described Democratic Socialist. U.S. President Donald Trump, who is a New Yorker himself, is likely to make his life a living hell. He called Mamdani a communist and has suggested he'd withhold funds to New York. On the eve of the election, Trump put out a post on Truth Social calling on New Yorkers not to vote for the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, but instead to cast a vote for Andrew Cuomo. If Mamdani wins, the 34-year-old will become the second youngest mayor in New York's history, but he would be the first person of South Asian descent and the first Muslim to run the city.
Thank you for that, Delano. And that's it for this edition of Entre Nous. You're watching France 24.